Hello everyone, welcome to Advanced Knowledge Systems and a warm welcome to AKS IAS Academy, which is one of the premier institutions in India, and it offers examination coaching for UPSC CSE, State Public Service Commission, SSC Combined Graduate Level Exam and CLAT examinations. And about me, I'm Sandeep Bhushan and my credentials are I have 10 years of teaching experience for civil services. I take up international relations and internal security and the analysis of the Hindu newspaper, that is of daily newspaper analysis, and the analysis is of today's, that is 6th of March 2021. And throughout my DNA, that is daily news analysis, I would be focusing at the keywords and the key phrases from the newspaper, which will be certainly useful for UPSC prelims perspective, and we will identify the factual, analytical and conceptual questions. And also, while you are in the mode of imbibing the keywords and the key phrases in your answer writing, so that your answers for the mains examination would be precise and concise and you would score higher marks in the mains examination. Therefore, this session at AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis will certainly help you to crack both the prelims and mains of 2021. And before we get into the DNA of the newspaper, we would be focusing at the quote of the day, and the quote of the day says that the secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. So what is very important is that you need to stick to a routine which is daily and which is consistency. So only then you would be in the mode of success. That is, the secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. So what does matter for your success is your consistency of your daily routine. And now we'll get into the DNA of the newspaper, and here we would be looking at, again, the keyword is regulate OTT platforms. And we have seen that yesterday that the government of India has come up with the rules and guidelines, or else rules and guidelines for the OTT platforms. And now the Supreme Court says, or it has said, that the government's decisions to come up with the rules and guidelines to regulate the over the top platforms lack the control to punish the violators or the screen offensive content. So the Supreme Court is very clear about the rules and regulations which are brought in by the government of India to regulate the OTT platforms does not really have the teeth or to control to punish the violators or the screen offensive content. And the court has in turn supported or protected the India commercial head of Amazon Prime Video, Aparna Purohit, from being arrested for her web series Raw, that is Thandav. But it has protected the Amazon Prime Video India commercial head. But it has said that the rules or the new rules taken up by the government lacks the control or teeth to punish the violators or even the screen offensive content. And the court said that the guidelines which the government has come up is merely a guideline but does not really have any provision to punish or fine the violators. And it has asked, the Supreme Court has asked the government, what is the effective mechanism for screening and what are the control and regulations for the OTT platforms, and what is the appropriate action taken by the government against the violators. So the court has questioned the government that there are no provisions for punishment or fine, and what is the effective mechanism for screening, and what are the control and regulative methods for the platforms, and what are the appropriate actions taken by the government against the violator. And the court said that the rules of 2021, that is Information Technology Guidelines for Intermediaries and Digital Media Ethics Code rules of 2021 are merely guidelines. And thereby, when the Supreme Court is talking about these rules of 2021, that is Information Technology rules of 2021 are merely guidelines, it is necessary and imperative that you need to focus about the Information and Technology rules of 2021 for both for prelims as well as mains examination. And definitely there can be a probable question both for prelims as well as mains from the Information Technology rules of 2021. And now we will focus at the another news, because we know that since February 1st there is a military crackdown in Myanmar, and there is certainly the democracy has to be restored back in Myanmar. And in the midst of this coup or the military crackdown in Myanmar, there are instances that the military has been very severe onto the people who are refusing the military crackdown or the military rule or the coup, and in turn there are deaths. Many of them have died in the military action against the people who have raised their voice against the military rule or the coup. And in turn, in this process, there are the Myanmar nationals are trying to sneak into India as a refugee, because they are certainly not wanting the kind of military coup in Myanmar. And in this context, the Myanmar nationals are sneaking into India through Mizoram, and then they would wish to take as a refugee. And the villagers in Mizoram border district, they say that there are around 100 people of, that is Myanmar nationals, who have crossed over from Myanmar to escape the military crackdown. And this, yes, we need to look at from refugees or migration, and also in regards to the internal security. So how the refugees or the migration which is happening because of the military crackdown, and just to escape the military crackdown, the Myanmar nationals are sneaking into or crossing over from Myanmar into India, that is into the Mizoram state. So this you need to focus not just as a military coup in Myanmar, not just as restoring democracy in Myanmar, but the refugees and migrants who are sneaking into India, which could be a probable, if at all, that it could be a internal security problem. And the local authorities in the villages of Mizoram state, which borders few districts to the Myanmar, they confirm that the people are arriving into or crossing over to India, and they are crossing over to India because of the Myanmar military. And Myanmar military, in the local language of Mizoram state, in the local villages, it is called as Tatmada. So this is the word Tatmada, which they refer it to the Myanmar military. And they say that the military which has taken over the control of Myanmar, that is Myanmar military, as a coup on February 1st. The keyword is Tatmada, which is called as a Myanmar military in the local language of Mizoram state, which are the villages which are bordering the Myanmar country. And they say that people have taken refuge in two districts of Mizoram, that is Champai district and Setchip districts. And these districts, they have taken refuge by crossing over the river called as Tio. Tio is a river which the refugees have crossed over from Myanmar into Mizoram into two districts, that is Champai district and Setchip districts. And the Mizorams, they have crossed over the river which has a long stretch, that is Mizoram's 404-kilometer border with Myanmar. And this again is crucial information for prelims from geography. Even though we did talk about it is in regards to the refugee migrations and internal security or restoring democracy in Myanmar, again this can be analyzed and linked, this part of the information, to geography from prelims perspective, that what is the kilometers which are bordering the Mizoram with Myanmar. It is 404 kilometers, and the river, the natural river which borders Mizoram Champai district and Setchip district with Myanmar is the river Tio. So we will be looking at the map, and then we will try to identify a probable question or link the probable question from geography map based question also. And a village that is called as Farkhan village in the Champai district, which borders Myanmar, they say that the Assam Rifles personnel have been preventing the refugees or the Myanmar nationals who are wanting to escape the military coup or military crackdown in Myanmar, so that they are crossing over, but it is being prevented by Assam Rifles personnel. And now we will look at why the Myanmar nationals who would wish to escape the military crackdown in Myanmar, wanting to sneak into a crossover into India, that is in Mizoram state, especially in the districts of Mizoram, that is Champhai and Serchhip district, are being prevented by Assam Rifles personnel. Because why are they being prevented? Because the Lok Sabha member of Mizoram, which has only one Lok Sabha member, again this can be as polity. Look at it, how we are trying to correlate the information, or how we are trying to analyze the information from geography and also internal security and now polity, because there is only one Lok Sabha member in Mizoram, and the one Lok Sabha member in Mizoram is C. Lal Sangha, and he has said that the Mizoram government has issued a standard operating procedures, that is SOP. It has issued the standard operating procedure for identification of refugees. That is why the nationals or Myanmar nationals who are crossing over into India, into Mizoram state, have been prevented, because they have to, that is Assam Rifle personnel have to look into, or they have to check, identify the refugees as issued by the Mizoram government. That is the standard operating procedures issued by the Mizoram government, so that they would identify the refugees. And the Deputy Commissioner of Champhai district, Maria C.T. Zoli, has also said that there has been a notification which says that the Myanmar nationals who are in danger of persecution. Please do understand, the Lok Sabha member has spoken about the standard operating procedures which the Mizoram government has issued, and at the same time we can also see the Deputy Commissioner of Champhai district has said that there is a notification saying that whoever, that is the Myanmar nationals who are wishing to enter into India, that who are in danger of persecution by the Myanmar military junta, would be regarded as refugees and should be provided shelter and protection. Please do understand this. Again, as I said, for how you need to focus that the refugees who are entering into India because of the military crackdown or Myanmar military junta in Myanmar. So if there is any danger of persecution, this is a keyword, then they would be regarded as refugees by looking into the standard operating procedures issued by the Mizoram government, and then they would be provided, or they would be recognized as refugees, and they would be provided shelter and protection. So this is the way you need to analyze and link the refugees, or the one who are, or the Myanmar nationals who would wish to escape the military crackdown in Myanmar and then cross over to India, especially into the Mizoram state. So we need to focus from refugee, migration, internal security, and also geography, that is geography map based. So these are the various scenarios how you need to focus, and news, or a news which is covered in the newspaper. And now we will look at the districts which are part of the Mizoram state and which the Myanmar nationals are entering into district, that is Champhai district. So you can see here, this is bordering Myanmar. So this is Myanmar, Burma formally, and then Serchhip district. So these two districts, in these two districts, the Myanmar nationals are entering, because we have seen that there are the tribals who have the same kind of culture. So the probability of entering into India is because of the border tribal which have the probability that they can be mingled together, and that could be only through the standard operating procedures to be followed. And the river we were talking about, that they have crossed over the river, that is Tyor River. So this is a river in Champai district. So I have taken this because for the geography map base, that there is a possibility, or there could be a possibility, that UPSC might focus on this news and then prepare a question or come up with a question based on the geography map based about the river, because there could be that many of them may not focus on the river, the natural river which borders the Setship or Setship district or the Champai district of Mizoram, which borders Myanmar, wherein now in this scenario, that is the military crackdown in Myanmar, the Myanmar nationals are crossing over into Setship and Champai district, crossing over the river, that is Tyor River. So as per geography map based, I have focused this. And you can see other rivers also, wherein you have Subansri, again you have Tista River and various others, Manas, various others. So this you can consider from geography map based. And the another news which we would be looking at is that defense ties, this is a keyword, defense ties between India and Sri Lanka. And India has participated in the 70th anniversary of Sri Lanka Air Force, which it was a 3-day event in Colombo. And India, when it has participated, it is Indian Air Force Chief and 23 aircraft were part of the team which has participated the 3-day event in Colombo to mark the 70th anniversary of the Sri Lankan Air Force. And in this event, or through this event, that is the 70th anniversary of Sri Lankan Air Force, India is now seeking to reaffirm its strong defense cooperation with Sri Lanka. So what is that India is trying to benefit or trying to again reaffirm and then reinstate the defense cooperation or the defense ties between India and Sri Lanka. And it was now the 70th anniversary when India has participated at the Sri Lankan Air Force, and the last time when India has participated or Indian aircrafts have been taken part of the event in Sri Lanka was in the year 2001, when it was Sri Lanka's Air Force 50th year anniversary. So after 20 years, please do understand, after 20 years, Indian aircrafts have taken part in the event of the Sri Lankan Air Force. That is last time 2001 and now 2021. So after 20 years of gap, that is last time 50th anniversary year and now 70th anniversary year of Sri Lankan Air Force. So that is why India is now seeking to reaffirm its strong defense cooperation and defense ties with Sri Lanka. And this is very crucial, strategically very important to revamp or reaffirm the defense cooperation with Sri Lanka. And the team which has participated in the 3-day event is the Sarang Advanced Light Helicopters, Surya Kiran Hawks, Tejas Fighter Aircraft, Tejas Trainer and the Dornier Maritime Patrol Aircraft were being part of the team which have participated from India, and they have participated in the Fly Past and Acrobatic Display event with the Sri Lankan Air Force 70th anniversary. And when we are talking about the defense ties or defense cooperation, so we will go back to how the defense cooperation was really a coordinated one between India and Sri Lanka earlier. That means over 3 decades there was a civil war in Sri Lanka. There was a civil war in Sri Lanka which has spanned over 3 decades. And in the 3 decades civil war in Sri Lanka, India has played a crucial role militarily and also politically at times. So that was the ties between India and Sri Lanka in regards to the defense. So, but we have seen that There were criticism against the Indian peacekeeping force, wherein IPKF has also participated in the action or the military action against the civil war. I mean, in the civil war, wherein India has played a political and military role, and thereby there was definitely a criticism against IPKF. And we have also been part of an operation called as Operation Pumalai in 1987, wherein in that operation Indian Air Force has dropped food supplies in Jaffna, wherein there was a civil war which was taking place in Sri Lanka. And in turn, we have seen that the consequences of Indian peacekeeping force being politically and militarily playing a crucial role in the civil war, we have seen that there was an attempt on the former Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi, and also we have seen how he was being assassinated. And after close to 2.5 decades, now again India is taking or would wish to take the positiveness of the scenario, that to revamp and reaffirm the defense cooperation between India and Sri Lanka. So what we need to focus here is, as part of the prelims perspective, that which among the following were part of the or have participated in the fly past and acrobatic display event in the 70th Sri Lankan Air Force anniversary is Sarang, Surya Kiran, which are Hawks, Tejas fighter aircraft, Tejas trainer, and Dornier maritime patrol aircraft vessel. So these are the 5 which have been part of the team, Indian team, participating in the 70th anniversary of Sri Lanka Air Force. So this you need to focus from India-Sri Lanka relations in regards to the defense India-Sri Lanka, bilateral relations, and also specifically again focusing in regards to the defense relation or defense pact. And from prelims perspective, 70th year anniversary of Sri Lankan Air Force, which were the one which were part of the team to participate. That is Sarang, Surya Kiran, Tejas fighter aircraft, Tejas trainer, and then Dornier maritime patrol aircraft. And in Sri Lanka, if you look at post-war era, Indo-Sri Lanka military partnership. So even after the civil war, we have seen that Sri Lankan military versus LTT. There was war, and once the war has ended, Indo-Sri Lanka military partnership has focused mostly on training and capacity building. That means how the defense ties have been really trying to improve post LTT war in Sri Lanka. That is focusing mainly on training and capacity building. And if you focus on the Sri Lankan military personnel and training, every year there are 1200 Sri Lankan military personnel who are trained in India. And why is India so much focused or trying to revamp and reaffirm the defense cooperation with Sri Lanka is because Sri Lanka has huge potential to contribute to regional security, and this is the main intention and the foreign policy of India to reaffirm the defense ties with the 70th anniversary of Sri Lankan Air Force, wherein Indian Air Force Chief and 23 aircrafts have been part of the team participating, and thereby Sri Lanka has a huge potential to contribute to regional security. Therefore, Sri Lanka is a strategic location, and therefore it makes India's crucial partner, not only India, for all the countries in the region. And that is how Sri Lanka is strategically important for regional security, and also not only for India but also for various countries. And we have seen that how the relation between India and Sri Lanka in regards to the defense cooperation. So we had a firefighting operation which has been taken up by Indian Navy and Coast Guard personnels. In the firefighting operation, Indian Navy and Coast Guard personnel have helped the Sri Lankan Navy, wherein an oil tanker went up in flames in the Sri Lankan island east coast. That means there is a cooperation which is now revamping, and thereby, along with in the year 2020, Indian Navy and Coast Guard personnel have helped in the firefighting operation when an oil tanker went up in flames. And not only that, again in 2021, now we have seen that India has participated in the 70th anniversary of SLAF, Sri Lankan Air Force. So this is how you need to focus the 70th anniversary, and as part of the international relations, India-Sri Lanka bilateral relations or India-Sri Lanka defense ties, and how Indian peacekeeping force has played a crucial role politically and militarily at times in Sri Lanka in the 3-decade civil war between Sri Lankan government and LTT. And there is another news which talks about defense budget. So we are not talking about defense budget of only India, but we are talking about now the defense budget of China. And the China's defense budget has for the first time crossed $200 billion, and now it is with 6.8% hike, which is in regards to the defense spending for the year 2021, $200 billion. And this announcement was made while there was a session or a week-long session of the NPC, that is National People's Congress. And this National People Congress is a Communist Party controlled legislature in China. That means it is the NPC which is controlling the legislature. It is a Communist Party which controls the legislature in China. And it has announced that the China's defense budget for the year 2021 has been hiked to 6.8% with $200 billion. And this hike is a straight raise from 6.6%, which was in the year 2020, which again the 6.6%, that is the budget spending in the year 2020, was the lowest increase in many years. That means if you focus in 2015, the budget spending in China was 7.5% in 2019. That means comparing it with 2019, it was double digit increase, 7.5%. And the budget for 2021 budget spending for 2021 of China is 1.35 trillion yuan or $2.9 billion. And this budget allocation of 1.35 trillion yuan is up from 1.27 trillion yuan last year. That means in the year 2020 it was 1.27 trillion yuan, and now it is 1.35 trillion yuan. When we compare it with billion, it was in the year 2020 $179 billion, and now it has allocated $209 billion. And this China's defense spending is 4 times greater than India's defense spending. And when we talk about India's defense spending, it is minus or excluding, which is not including the pensions of the defense personnel. It is China's defense spending is 4 times than the India's defense spending. And India's budget, now if you focus for defense, it is a 1.48% hike in the total defense spending. And this includes pensions of the defense personnel. And when we include the defense personnel, it is $65.7 billion. And if we deduct, or if the budget is minus pensions of the defense personnel, it is $49.75 billion. So India's budget is a modest 1.48% hike in 2021 But when we compare the China's, it is 6.8 percentage hike. And when we compare the India's budget, that is including pensions, please do understand a keyword here. The budget includes, or the India's defense budget includes defense personnel's pensions. But when we compare it with China's defense budget, there the spending on pension is not entirely in the defense budget. Please do understand. Here it is including the pensions, but in China it is not entirely. The defense budget is not including entirely of the pensions of the defense personnel, because it is shared. What is shared? That is the defense budget for the pensions are shared by Ministry of Civil Affairs and provincial or state governments. That is why it is not, that is the pensions of the defense personnel in China is not entirely about the, or not entirely from the China's defense budget, because the pensions are shared by the Ministry of Civil Affairs and the state governments, which are part of the budget personnel allocation. And this is that what we need to focus in regards to the India's defense budget spending or allocation, comparing or linking with the pensions of India's defense budget and China's defense budget. And China's defense spending is a greater share goes, that is 6.8 percentage defense budget of China would be allocated to, or greatest share is to the PLA Navy, the rocket force. And with this rocket force or the PLA Navy is in charge of the missiles in China. And the greater share of the defense spending also goes to the strategic support force, and which includes the greater share is also to the cyber warfare. So they are very clear about how they need to, or what is that allocation and for what. It is for the rocket force, that is for the missiles, and the major is for missiles and cyber warfare. These are the two keywords you need to focus, that what is the importance that increase of or hike of 6.8 percentage in the China's defense spending is mainly for the missiles and cyber warfare. These are the keywords which you need to focus, which you can analyze or also make a point in the mains for the answer writing. And this again you can focus in regards to the India-China or defense defense budget between India and China. And there is another news which talks about OPEC plus, and this is in regards to the supply of oil by the OPEC plus countries, that is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies. And why are we talking about OPEC plus? The move or the decision taken by the OPEC plus countries will hit recovery. So we would be looking at the keyword, that is how the recovery would be hit by the decision taken by the OPEC plus countries. So what is the decision taken by the OPEC plus countries? That is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies. It has taken a decision that it will not, or it has agreed not to increase supply. That means they are not increasing the supply of crude oil. That means they are not increasing the supply of crude oil in the month of April. Why? Because they are waiting for substantial recovery in demand. So what is important is that we are focusing on the two keywords, that is supply and demand. That means the OPEC plus countries are waiting for an substantial recovery in demand of the crude oil. That is why the OPEC plus countries are not increasing the supply. They would wish to keep it at a balanced supply so that the demand would be substantially recovered during the COVID-19 pandemic situation. There are three keywords here you need to focus. That is the supply, demand, and the COVID-19 pandemic. And then link it this COVID-19 pandemic with the prices of the oil, fuel prices across the globe, and how it would impact the global economic recovery. And now we will look at what India or the developing countries are worried about the decision taken by the OPEC plus countries, that they are not interested to increase the supply of the crude oil in April, because they would wish to see that there would be a substantial recovery and demand. And because of this decision not to increase the supply, the crude oil prices have increased, and it has increased by 33% in 2021. Why? Because they have not, or they have decided to not to increase the supply of crude oil prices. That is why the prices have increased up to 33% in 2021. And the OPEC plus countries have also gone ahead with tracking what could be the price of the crude oil per barrel, that is the Brent crude futures for the month of May, because they have decided not to increase the supply in April. That would have a cascading effect of the prices or the price of crude oil per barrel for the month of May. Please do understand, the decision taken not to increase the supply in the month of April would have a cascading effect on the month of, or in the month of May, for the Brent crude oil prices. That is, it would increase to $67.44 per barrel. And this decision, which would further increase the price of a barrel to $67.44 per barrel, in that regards, India would be hit very badly, because there is a soaring oil prices which India is experiencing. And in turn, while India is experiencing the surge in oil prices, India is urging the producers, that is OPEC plus countries, to ease out output cuts. To ease out, that means that let there be an increase in supply, so that if they can be an increase in supply or the production of crude oil, and that will help the global economy recovery from the pandemic situation. And this is what India is talking about, or India is mentioning or responding towards the decision taken by OPEC plus countries, that producers are urged by India to ease output cuts, because now they have decided to cut the production of crude oil. Now India is urging the OPEC plus countries to ease, to make sure that there are changes to the output cuts, that is cut in oil or crude oil production. Thereby, that decision would help the global economic recovery from the pandemic. And if you look at the other side of it, which would be again very crucial for prelims, and a conceptual understanding about how India and then oil prices are linked, or fuel prices are linked, because India is world's third biggest oil importer. India is the world's third biggest oil importer, and India imports 84% of its oil, and India relies on West Asian supplies, so that it relies on the West Asian supplies to meet 3/5 of its demand, that is oil demand. And that is why the economic recovery would be badly hit, and that is why India is urging the producers to ease the output cuts, Why? Because India is the world's third biggest oil importer, and it imports 84% of its oil. Please do understand, 84%. That is why India is totally dependent. It relies on the West Asian supplies to meet the 3/5 of its demand. That is why India is pitching in for OPEC countries that there be an ease of output cuts. Otherwise, it would hit the recovery in India. And in regards to the decision taken by the OPEC plus countries, so that they would go ahead with increasing, or they would stop the output in the month of April, the Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas in India, that is Dharmendra Pradhan, has said that the rising oil prices would pose the fiscal challenge in India. This is a keyword. How the oil prices would impact the fiscal challenges in India, because the fuel is heavily taxed in India, and because it is heavily taxed in India, the oil prices are soaring and it is touching record highs, almost petrol at 100 rupees. And this soaring oil prices, which has touched record highs, it would pose a fiscal challenge for India, and it would also threaten the demand driven recovery. How the rising oil prices would impact the fiscal challenges and demand driven recovery, we are focused. And this is how you need to analyze the decision taken by OPEC plus countries and its impact on India's fiscal challenge and its impact on demand driven recovery, or India's demand driven recovery. And this will be useful for you for the conceptual understanding for the mains examination, that how the crude oil prices or global crude oil prices would impact the fiscal challenges in India and would impact the demand driven recovery in India in the midst of the COVID pandemic situation. And the minister also said that the decision by the major producers to continue the output cuts, and by this the prices will move higher, that is the prices will increase, and this could also threaten the consumption led recovery in some countries. So there are three challenges which India and the developing countries would impact because of the oil prices rise, or global oil prices soaring because of the output cuts taken up by the major producers. That is, first one is there would be a fiscal challenge and threaten to the demand driven recovery and also the consumption led recovery in various other developing countries which are almost like India. And the minister has said that, or he is hopeful that OPEC and OPEC plus would ease the production cuts to some degree, taking into account the fragile recovery of the global economy, particularly the developing countries. So India is worried about its fiscal challenge. It's worried about the demand driven recovery. It is worried about the consumption led recovery and the fragile recovery of the global economy, particularly in developing countries. So this is the nature of civil services preparation and analysis, how you need to focus that the decision taken by the OPEC plus countries not to increase supply or to cut the output of oil, crude oil prices, would impact on the Indian oil prices and impact or pose fiscal challenge, threaten the demand driven recovery, threaten the consumption led recovery in developing countries. And now we will focus at the question for the day for the mains examination. And the question is, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, rising oil prices in India or posing fiscal challenges for India and threatening the demand-driven recovery, particularly in developing countries. Discuss. So here the question is in regards to the oil prices in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic situation. So here it is health versus economy. Health versus economy. So here we are talking about India, and also the question is India and the developing countries. So you need to understand the demand driven recovery, consumption led recovery, not only in India but in the developing countries, and then link how the rising oil prices poses fiscal challenges for India and threaten the demand driven recovery, particularly in developing countries, and then discusses. So this is part of the economy subject, particularly in regards to again OPEC countries or OPEC plus countries, how it controls the supply of crude oil prices in the world. So try answering this question and improve your writing skills for the mains examination. And I hope this session was informative, knowledgeable, and also very useful for mains as well as prelims perspective. So I would say a very big thank you to all. Good luck to you all, and then do maintain consistency, stick to your schedule, and take care of your physical health and mental health. And do not forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe the English medium YouTube channel of AKS IAS Academy, and also have access to the website and Telegram link of AKS IAS Academy. And then see you again tomorrow with the DNA, that is Daily News Analysis. Till then, thank you, goodbye, and then take care.